Hello guys, welcome back. And today I'm going to be doing my 2019 NHL mock draft, this time November edition. Now in this video I'll do a top 15 ranking, so if you want to see who's top 5, make sure you stick around. At number 15, we're going to start the rankings with Philip Broberg. He's a defenseman playing in the Allsvenskan this season. He's a Swedish defenseman, seeming like the endless droves of Swedish defensemen. He's just another one, but he's still a fantastic prospect, I feel. At age 17, he's playing very well, and he made a name for himself in the Holinka, but since then, he's still been playing pretty decently. In the Allsvenskan, in 14 games played so far this season, he's gotten 3 assists for 3 points. Not the most in the world, but again, I think he's the youngest defenseman in that league, so he's still playing pretty decent. Now, he's dropped 4 spots from last month, or from the preseason rankings, just because I thought some guys passed him, but I still think he's a pretty solid prospect, and I still think that he's one of the better defensive prospects heading into 2019. Now, at number 14, I have Cam York. He's another defenseman, so back-to-back defenseman in the rankings. He plays in the US and at TDP, and he's been really surprising me. While I had him at 15 in last month's rankings, while he's only really grown in 1 spot, I feel like he's played very well still, and has surprised me at how well he's playing. Now, he's an American defenseman and another age 17 guy. He's 5'11", 172 pounds, so not the biggest guy in the world, but still very offensively minded. In the USDP so far this season, he has 13 games played, 2 goals, 11 assists for 13 points. That's 4th on the US development team right there, and as a defenseman, I think that's very solid numbers and very impressive numbers. Even though I thought he was very good even a month ago, he's really surprised me how well he's been able to play and how consistent he's been throughout the year so far. At number 13, I got Ryan Suzuki. He's a center from the OHL of the Barrie Colts. He wasn't ranked in the top 15 last month, but so far from the start of the season, he's really impressed me with how well he's been able to produce offensively. We already know he's a pretty smart, pretty like-minded player, and defensively, he's pretty stellar, but the offense has certainly been really ramping up, especially from the start of the season. Now, he's Canadian center, of course, at age 17. He's 6 foot, 172 pounds in the OHL so far this season. He's played 14 games, had 6 goals, and 18 assists, over an assist a game, which is fantastic, for 24 points, which is 10th across the entire OHL. So he's been really stellar, of course, being the brother of Nick Suzuki. You got a little bit of expectations, but he's been fantastic so far this season, and while I had some concerns about his offense coming into the season, he's really made my doubts go away. At number 12, I got Anttoni Honka, another defenseman on this list so far. He is playing in the Liga this year. He's a Finnish-born defenseman, and so far I've really liked what I've seen from him in the past couple of years. Now, he's one of the older players in this list. He already turned 18 this past October, so he's up there in age, and he definitely has that age advantage compared to some of these players. But even though he has an advantage on some of the players on this list, he doesn't really, because he's playing in the Liga against adults. So far, I think he's played still very well. Now, in the Liga, he's so far played 14 games, has had 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points. He's done pretty solidly, and I feel him as more of an offensive guy, but I've seen great plays of him defensively. I'm pretty sure in the Holinka, I think he played there. But in the Liga, he's been solid so far. I've liked what I've seen from him. He's made good offensive plays, he's made good defensive plays, and overall, I like what I've seen from Honka. Even though I've seen him, or even in this mock draft, I dropped him 4 points from this attempt, or from the mock draft from the preseason, I still like Anttoni Honka, and I still think he's great going forward. At number 11, I got Peyton Krebs. He's a left winger in the WHL this season with the Kootenay Ice. He's a Canadian left winger, so a big guy, another big Canadian on this list. At age 17, he's one of the smaller guys on this list at 5'11", but he's still very good. And this season so far in the WHL, he's kind of proved my doubts wrong so far. Now, in my preseason rankings, I had him at number 14, but he, of course, being at number 11, he's jumped up 3 spots, and really, he's been impressive, especially in the last couple of weeks, on what he's been able to do offensively. So far in the WHL, he's played 16 games, has had 6 goals, 16 assists for 22 points. That's 10th across the entire WHL, which is great to see for him. Peyton Krebs, I was kind of skeptical about, especially at the start of the season. I wasn't sure how well he would play this season, but in the last couple of weeks, he's really started to get hot, and the Kootenay Ice, he's really starting to play well. So he might be a player that maybe rises next month in the December rankings, but right now he definitely deserves to be higher than he was. At number 10, I got Trevor Zegras, another American prospect here. He's a center. He's in the U.S. Development League, the same as Cam York, so you can translate that a little bit. But Zegras, in the last couple of weeks, has really risen. And in my preseason rankings, I didn't even have him in the top 15, but so far this season, he's been making a lot of great offensive plays. And I already knew he had talent, but he's been making it really show on the scoreboard. Now, as I said, he's an American center. He's at age 17 right now. He's 6 foot. He's at 168 pounds. And in the USHL, he's played 4 games so far. He's had 2 goals, 6 assists for 8 points. But of course, he's playing in the U.S. Development League, so he's gotten more games played there. So in the U.S. Development League, he's played 12 games. He's had 6 goals, 13 assists for 19 points, which is second behind, of course, Jack Hughes. So in the last couple of weeks, Zegras has really risen up, especially in the points. He's been able to have a few great games, and really Zegras, I already thought he had talent. He really had some raw skill to him, but now he's finally starting to get on the scoreboard, which is fantastic to see. At number 9, one of the bigger rises throughout this list, I got Mikko Kokkonen. Now, he's a defenseman from the Liga, same as Anttoni Honka, but what makes Kokkonen so special is his two-way ability. Now, he's been playing with Turcotte for this year, and so far in the Liga, he's been straight amazing. Now, the Finnish defenseman is at age 17, so he's practically a year younger than Honka, even though it's pretty much just half a year. But what he's been able to do in the Liga as a 17-year-old has been very, very impressive. And as a defenseman, the points that he's been able to get is just straight amazing. Something that I never really expected he'd get. Now, so far this Liga season, he's played 18 games with Turcotte. He's gotten 1 goal, 7 assists for 8 points. And as a defenseman, that's amazing, especially as a 17-year-old defenseman that's playing against adults every single night. It really is a testament to what he's been able to do. And yes, while most of those are assists, those are still points added to his total. So right now, Kokkonen is still playing very, very well. I love his two-way ability, but the offense that he's been able to show is really bar none, especially in the Liga where you pretty much have Kaapo Kakko, but Kokkonen, when it comes to offense, is somehow not far behind. And to me, he's been one of the bigger rises throughout this draft, and especially in the last couple of weeks. And I think he's starting to finally get that recognition that he deserves. And I think still he's pretty underrated. I think he's definitely a top 15 guy. And I feel like people are starting to finally catch on to what he's been able to do so far. At number 8, I got Vasili Podkolzin. Now, he's the one Russian in my top 15, and he's looking to be the one actually good Russian in this draft. And Podkolzin, especially after that Hlinka, has done very, very well. In that Hlinka, he made the name for himself, but he's been playing very, very solid since then, too. Now, he's another Russian right-winger. Tell me if you've heard that before. In the MHL, he's been playing pretty well. He's played 10 games at 5 goals, 2 assists for 7 points. He also has played with Russia in the U18 International Juniors. So far, he's had 8 games played, 10 goals, 5 assists for 15 points, which, if you don't know, is pretty good. And I feel like he's kind of in the same situation as Vasili Podkolzin last year. Not that they're the same player, but that their production doesn't really reflect the kind of player that they are and how skilled they are. I think both of them, again, they're both Russians, they're both very highly touted, and they're both highly skilled. I think that both of them kind of have similarities in the way that both Podkolzin and Kravtsov have tons of skill, and honestly, I feel like Podkolzin just has that skill alone. He showed that in Hlinka, and he's going to show it everywhere else, even if he doesn't get as many points as some people might want. At number 7, I got Matthew Boldy. He's a forward for the U.S. DP, pretty much in the U.S. National Development Program. Now, he's another American at age 17, but he was kind of under the radar heading into the season. I think his stock has vastly improved, kind of like Trevor Zegras, in a way that I think, honestly, he is one of the bigger rises in this draft so far, and I think Boldy can rise even more, especially if he continues to perform. Now, in the USHL, he has played 5 games, had 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points. He's mainly, though, has played in the USDP, where he's played 13 games so far, has had 11 goals, 6 assists for 17 points. And obviously, the goals come out to you, and they stand out. And they definitely do. He's obviously has that goal-scoring talent, and he's shown that so far this season. I think his overall offense is pretty underrated as well. He's a decent passer. I think the defense is a little bit suspect, but when it comes down to the offense, there's not many players in this draft that are better than him. At number 6, I got Bowen Byram, one of the more well-known prospects in this 2019 NHL draft. He's a defenseman, a Canadian defenseman, currently playing in the WHL with Vancouver Giants, and he's been one of the more well-known prospects just because of how well he's played. He looks to be the best prospect, or the best defensive prospect in this draft, and while there are some guys that are close, like Kokkonen or maybe Anttoni Honka, I think Byram kind of steals the show when it comes to defensemen in this draft. Now, as I said before, the Canadian defenseman has gotten off to a pretty solid start in the WHL right now. He's played 16 games, has had 5 goals, 8 assists for 13 points. Very solid numbers from him, and as an offensive guy, he works very well. But he's more of a two-way guy, one guy that can play very well defensively, but also put up the points like he has so far. And in WHL, he's put up very impressive numbers for being so young, and being a defenseman in that league, it's hard to do, and he's gotten a lot of points from it. Again, he's supposed to be more of a two-way defenseman, but he's still getting a lot of points, which I think is a testament to how well he is as a pure defenseman. Now, I had him at number 6 in the preseason mock draft, so it's going to be interesting to see where Bowen Byram goes from here, if he continues to stay at this area of this 6, maybe to 3 area. Of course, he is looking to be the best defenseman in this draft, and while there is some arguments for some other players, I think Bowen Byram is the best defenseman in the draft right now, so it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up placing, where people end up ranking him, because he's the best defenseman in this draft, so really he could go anywhere. Now, heading into the top 5, at number 5, I have Alex Turcotte, another center in the U.S. development program, another American going into this draft, another age 17 player, and to me, I really still have a lot of stock in him, but when it comes to the factors, I think he has dropped a little bit. Now, it's going to be really interesting to see where people place him as. Of course, he's not going to play a lot of the season, so he's going to miss a big chunk of 2018, and the play in 2018, so it's going to be really interesting to see if he plays well after this, like I think he still can. Again, the injuries have really sucked his so far this year for him, and I think his stock might be dropping because of that. I've seen people place him before like number 20. It's been crazy how low his stock has dropped because of his injury that I really do not understand. I still think he has amazing talent, and when he plays, he's freaking fantastic. At number 4, I got Dylan Cozens. He's another center on this list, by the way. It's a good year for centers, so look out for that. He's playing the WHL right now with the Hurricanes, and he's another Canadian center. Another Canadian center on this list, and another Canadian on this top 15. Canadians have a pretty good, solid group of players this year, and in the 2018-2019 season in the WHL, he's played pretty solid as well. He's had 15 games, he's had 8 goals, 13 assists for 21 points. That's third among U18 players, and he's played very, very solid. I've liked what I've seen from Dylan Cozens, and while he isn't getting as many points as I'd probably like him to get, I still have a lot of faith in him transitioning into an NHL player. I liked what I saw from him in the Holinka, and so far this WHL season, he's been playing very solid too. Now, for the top 4 players, I'm going to give them all a player comparison. So for Dylan Cozens, I'm going to give him a comparison of Rickard Rakell. I think Rakell is an amazing playmaker. He's an amazing overall offensive guy, and his transitions are amazing. He's a fast, really talented, speedy type guy. And I feel like Dylan Cozens, while it's not an exact replica of Rickard Rakell, I feel like he has a lot of the same qualities. He's very fast, he's very agile, he makes the right decisions, and the passing, the shot, pretty much all things offensively are geared toward that. He's very solid, and I feel like heading into this next year and the 2019 NHL draft, he'll definitely be up there in the stock. At number 3, I got Kirby Dach. He's been one of the bigger risers in this draft, I feel like, as well. He was number 5 in my preseason rankings, and so far this season, he's been proving me wrong in anything I ever said about him before then. He's been fantastic so far this season. Now, if you're going to be top 3, you got to have some legendary stats, and he definitely does. Now, he's a Canadian center playing in the WHL with the Saskatoon Blades. You got some similarities there with Dylan Cozens, of course. But this season with the WHL, he's made improvements in not just his offensive game, but in his overall game and his complete game. He's really made strides in becoming a more complete player. In the WHL so far, he's played 17 games, he's had 10 goals, 17 assists for 27 points. 5th across the entire WHL. And while he's not playing against grown-ups, he's playing against 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, and 20-year-olds. And as a 17-year-old, he's pretty much dominating that entire class and dominating that entire league, which is great to see. The offense has been fantastic from him, and he's really impressed me in what he's been able to do so far, not just in the Holinka, but in the WHL and the highlights that I've been able to see. Now, if I'm going to give him a player comparison, I'm going to give him a player comparison of Logan Couture. Maybe a little bit of a better Logan Couture, but I still think that comparison is pretty valid. I think both players are very, very confident. They're both very, very calm and relaxed. The composure on Kirby Dach, I think, is amazing, and when you see him in the Hlinka, when you see him in the WHL, there really isn't any stress on his shoulders. It seems like he's just flying out there, playing hockey on the pond, making it seem like nothing. And while that might not transition to the NHL, so far I've liked what I've seen from him in just the relaxed, calm mood he's able to put out, and as the talent that he has, he's able to score goals, no problem. At number 2, I got Kaapo Kakko, one of the best names in this draft for sure. Now, he's a right winger in the Liga, and so far, while he's not breaking records, he definitely was on pace to break records. Now, he's a Finnish-born right winger at the age of 17. Playing in the Liga, he's been fantastic. And honestly, has rivaled Jack Hughes for that #1 spot. And while I don't have him at the #1 spot, I've seen people that have him over Jack Hughes. So for me, Kaapo Kakko has been fantastic, and in the Liga, he surprised a lot of people. In the Liga so far, in 15 games, he's had 3 goals, 7 assists for 10 points. And while it's not amazing, while it's not amazing on paper, you gotta remember the Liga is against adults, so those numbers are gonna be a lot lower than usual. And in the Liga, know those numbers right there, 10 points in 15 games, those are fantastic numbers for sure. And Kaapo Kakko is playing extremely well in the Liga against adults. He's been able to rack up points better than ever and better than anybody else in the Liga at his age. And so far, he's been able to rival Jack Hughes for the #1 position. And while it's going to be interesting to see at the end of the year how close that gets. I don't think Kaapo Kakko will be #1 at the end of the year unless he breaks some legal records or something. But I think like it's really starting to get really close, and there's going to start to be a big debate on whether you have Kaapo Kakko or Jack Hughes, which in all honesty is healthy for the NHL and healthy for this draft. It could spark some serious discussion if Kaapo Kakko continues to play this way. Now, if I'm going to give a player comparison to Kaapo Kakko, I'm going to compare him to David Pastrnak, mostly because he's an excellent passer as well. He has a fantastic shot, I feel. He finds the right areas to find dekes, and he's a fantastic player when it comes to those dekes, and Pastrnak, I think, is the same way. I feel like it's not a direct comparison, but I feel like it's good enough to where those two players feel very similar. And for #1 in the November NHL mock draft, I have Jack Hughes. Now, this is obvious to some, but again, as I said before, Kakko is starting to challenge Jack Hughes' spot. I think Jack Hughes has still been fantastic this season, but it seems like he's taken a little bit of a step down from last year. Last year, I think he broke a couple of records for how good he was at age 16, but in his draft year so far, it still has been fantastic, but it hasn't lived up to what some people may have expected. Now, so far in the USDP, that's the main league that he plays in, of course, he's gotten 13 games played, he's gotten 3 goals, 17 assists for 20 points, which is first there. Now, that's still fantastic numbers. I feel like that's top 5 worthy numbers, but for the 20 points there, it was expected to be a lot more. Now, so far, it is still early in the season, so really anything can happen. Now, there's some definite concern on him regressing from last year on maybe if he got a little bit worse this season, but I still think Jack Hughes has amazing talent. He still has top 5 talent. I feel like he has the talent to be a top 10 center in the NHL for sure. Right now, he did regress a little bit, but his numbers on paper are still fantastic. And again, while Kaapo Kakko has been slowly making his way up there and maybe challenging for that #1 spot, I still think that Jack Hughes has the best talent by far in this draft. And for just what he's able to do on the ice, I don't think there's any player better in this draft than him. And again, that could change. Maybe Kaapo Kakko overtakes Jack Hughes in these rankings somewhere down the line. But right now, I feel like Jack Hughes is the better player when it comes to talent and #1 overall. While it comes down to him, I still think that Jack Hughes is the guy for that. Now, I'm going to give a player comparison. I'm going to give it to Johnny Gaudreau for Jack Hughes, mainly because Jack Hughes is not that big. He's 5'10", 168 pounds, so he's not up there in size. I still think that he's really shifty. He's really crafty. He's not going to be this big guy like Austin Matthews. I don't feel like it's going to be that way. I feel like it's going to be more of a smaller player that still makes a definite impact on the offensive end. But again, I know of these lists, it sparks a lot of debate, so I want to hear from you guys. What do you think about my top 15, the players that I ranked in this video, and what are your top 15? What are your favorite players in this draft, and what do you ultimately think of my picks in this mock draft? Now, if you want some more Grav prospect goodness, you can watch this video where I talk about Kirby Dach and if he's Canada's best prospect in this upcoming draft. But that's going for today, guys. If you guys enjoy, make sure you like and subscribe. Again, tell me below your thoughts on my rankings and your rankings as well. And I'll see you guys in the next video or stream. Goodbye.